hate the producer and the director.
They're both nuts.
Yes,
Bam.
bam. And I wish people were here to see it sometimes, but they're not. This show, honey.
Queen V, Empress, time to sweep.
Hope you're ready. Welcome back.
Hey.
Welcome back. Hey, sweet.
Hey, get your broom.
Oh,
Get your Swiffer.
oh. Yo, it's time for another episode of S.W.E.E.P, Sisters who educate and empower with purpose. I am Empress to it, model, Tyra. Boom. Bang. Hello. Yeah, okay. And whoever this nut is, who is she? I'm not gonna say her name.
Queen V.
There you go, boo.
And that's
There you
why I hate the producer.
As it was announced, I'm your girl, Queen V. Jealousy is not good.
I'm not jealous.
You're gonna fade out to that green screen.
Wow. I'm not jealous. I just didn't want to say your name. Welcome.
Hey,
honey, we are back.
did you miss us?
I miss us. I always miss us.
Today.
Today, honey.
Today, we are continuing the Living Out Loud series. Today's show is Living Out Loud, Honoring My Temple.
If I could quote my brothers, too easy. Ooh, yes.
We're gonna pray.
We go
soon as we get to these.
Oh, you know what? I can joke like that. I love my sisters and I love my brother. I love Queen V, but living out loud, honoring your temple, yeah, that's pretty deep. We're going pretty deep.
And it's not always easy. So we should say, honoring my temple now.
Oh, ahora.
She
In
done switched language.
Espanol.
So underneath the dirt.
Yeah, so underneath the dirt, honey, has everything to do with honoring our temple. And of course, this person lives out loud, Miss Corinne Steffens. Yeah, she wrote.
Last time, you do not call her by her nickname.
Yeah, no,
do not say that when she says Corinne Steffens. Don't say.
Yeah, don't say it. Because we're purposely not saying it because she lives out loud. 2 books about her life. Confessions of a Video Vixen. I read them. Wow.
They were very detailed.
Yes, very detailed.
And descriptive.
Descriptive, that's a great word.
And provocative.
And dare I say it, erotic?
Yeah.
No, it was all of that. And it was her life.
She was very busy.
She really busy. But in that same token, she lives out. The reason why she lives out loud is because she wrote it in the book and sold it and made all this money about her life. And when you read about her, of course we all know what she did. We understand what she did. But when you read about her, you get the backstory as to why she became to do the things that she did. And I think that a lot of times we as sisters, we miss that. We miss that. And then we want to hold her accountable or each other accountable for the mistakes that we made in the past.
They're mistakes.
Oh.
They're in the past.
Mistakes.
We want to let that go.
In the past. Let it go. And you know, a lot of times we do dictate, we make decisions based on what's happened to us in the past. But that brings me to the definition of insanity. doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results.
A circle is still gonna be a circle. As long as you make that wide curve.
It doesn't stop.
You don't go straight.
It doesn't stop.
You don't turn at an angle.
You're gonna have to eventually.
Then you're gonna keep going in a circle.
Eventually. And she has received horrible things about her on social media.
Oh yes.
Guest spots
She's
on
been
talk shows.
Drugged through the dirt is what she's doing. But
Mud.
yeah. But the thing is, she did what a lot of us are too scared to do.
What did she do?
Told her story.
Wow.
Now, I can't say I would have given names, but that was her life. Those were years out of her life.
Yes.
They happened for a reason. A lot of women, young, old, live by that use what you got to get what you want mentality. There are people with kids that don't think they can feed them any other way than by choosing certain lifestyles. But just because it's for their kids, everybody say, oh, I hate she got to do that, but do what you got to do. But then when they get out, oh, she don't need to be.
Oh.
Did you take that baby some groceries?
Throw that rock. And then hide your hand.
Were you buying diapers?
Milk, bottles,
That's
clothes.
what she felt she had to do.
Clothes.
Everybody didn't go to college. Some college graduates don't have a job.
It happens. And she was drugged through the mud. She did pornographic films. She did all this other stuff, and people drug her through the mud. And they were like, she's such a bad person. And then she put people's names out there. That was her life. And she chose to put it out there. And sometimes, well, I know I'll speak that. You have to put it out there to be released from it.
She just showed us an avenue that would make us some money.
If I could write a book,
I ain't telling. I'll tell you my business.
Yeah.
I don't tell everybody else's business while I'm telling you mine. No.
You know what? Thank you. You know what? Thank you. And what's worse, I think what's worse is that we as sisters, we talked about it. I'm guilty. I said some things because I was like, why would she say that? Why would she do that? Why would she do that? She giving women a bad name and why would she do that? But if that's what you know, that's what you do.
I've always told people, be very careful about judging. Because you will soon have to walk through those shoes that you've been. God will make you see why and how people can do what they do. It only took once. I hate that that's what I was judging because I walked right on through that door. And I had to eat that. You'll hear about it later. I had to eat that. So keep your mouth off of people. Pray for people. Don't try to understand what they're doing. It's not for you to understand because they don't understand why you do the things that you do. The important part is that you change your life. And that way when you tell your story, it's your past and not your present.
And if you don't mind saying that quote that Minister Barbara said to us that we have been living by. Hey, Minister Barbara.
Thank you. Sis. You said it.
Yes.
And that just did some things in me. God worked all through me. So Queen V had to put it up on her page. But she said something along the lines of transparency is easy or easier. It's easier to live in transparency. I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Because then the devil doesn't have as much to hold over you. He can't blackmail you into doing things and keeping things quiet and keeping things to yourself and not helping the next woman or the next man because he no longer has control of it. You do. Because you've already released it.
I will say that living is not, I won't say it's not as easy. If you've always been transparent, then good for you. Those of us who have not been that transparent, I'm finding that it's become easier because I have noticed that it's so much easier for me to just say it and express it.
It's over.
And it's over.
And to those who come after you, once you have released it, they come for you with their rocks in hand.
Throw it.
Be careful.
Right.
Be very careful.
Right.
Because we volunteer. Not always. Sometimes you don't have no choice but to tell the truth.
Right.
And then it's like that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about when you make the conscious decision. I'm tired of living like this. I'm tired of hiding this. We put ourselves on pedestals, or we allow people to put us on pedestals, and we don't think people are supposed to know certain things about us, or know that we've done or seen or said, certain things. Man came up with that. God saw you do it, and he's going to use whatever it is to help his next daughter or his next son. So you sitting on it, it could possibly be killing somebody else.
And she's in my mom it up.
I'm done mopping. I'm not mopping it. We're underneath the dirt. That's what's down there to be mopped.
Yes.
That's
it's the dirt.
It's down there.
But I will say, as much as I think that we have said some negative things about Corinthia, I'll say that I have. That I love that she
I was
lived
young.
out. Yeah, young. I love that she lived out loud. And I love that this is what this show is about. It is about living out loud.
Living out loud.
And being transparent. And actually, and it's Queen V's turn to be a guest and a host.
At the same time.
At the same time.
I have no problem with it.
Oh, yeah, see, look, she did that. I was like, no! Okay. So.
It's not your life anymore. There's no
Yes.
reason to be afraid of the past. It's yesterday.
Yesterday.
And when we come back, you will see our two amazing, beautiful,
Yes, they are.
boisterous.
Oh, what? Living out loud.
Yes.
The women of God who come to share their stories with us. So, when we come back,
It'll be 4 of us instead of 2.
thank God.
Welcome back.
Yes.
Welcome back. Get it.
Welcome back. Hey, hey.
You don't feel
You
welcome?
don't feel welcome?
Oh, I was gonna dance.
You should have.
We got some
We need to do it again. We need
They already flying? Okay, I'm gonna start over.
Yeah, let's do it again. Okay.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. So we are so sitting on the set with 2 of the biggest nuts in ministry. Wait a minute, what I mean?
Yeah, do it. Oh, man. I said,
Okay, I'm gonna repeat what I said. We are on set with 2 of the biggest nuts in ministry, okay?
we talking cashews and almonds. Okay.
I have the pleasure of sitting next to, I don't know why God does some of the things that he does.
He's smart.
But he is an amazing God, and he's an all-knowing God, so he know why he put this nut in my life.
Me too.
But I'm sitting next to co-pastor, Reverend Doctor,
Elder, minister,
praise and worshiping,
apostle,
Bishop.
prophetically speaking,
time talking. Hello?
Nikisha Jones.
Oh, hey.
Lakeisha.
Yes, it did.
Like the Spirit of the Lord is all up and through me.
Yes.
Thank you, Lord, for
Thank
the Spirit
you.
of the Lord.
E. coli.
Thank you for the Spirit
Yes.
of the Lord.
He's coming in a Honda. Coming in a Honda. Yes, come on, come in the whole time. Come on, touch my shit.
You do that.
Lord, I ain't in there.
And this nut right here. Oh, I'm sorry.
And all the coral.
Oh yeah, okay, cool. Good word. Oh, she better sit up properly.
Elegant and so
See?
eloquent.
Don't say that. But I call her cashew.
Right.
Oh man.
All in the planters.
All up in there doing everything.
Yes.
But she is minister, reverend, doctor,
Yes, she
bishop, apostle, prophetess, evangelist, deaconess, deacon. All of those things. Miss Crystal. Oh, and she got married. She's married now.
How's Mary?
I'm married now.
See that?
It's still new, y'all. It's still new.
Yeah, it's still new.
It's
They
still
still
cute.
newlywed. I'm gonna say hi to my brother. Hey, Micah. You allowed her to come over here. Thank you.
He said he's covering. He said the covering.
This is Crystal Johnson.
Yay. I'm glad to be here.
You should be, honey.
Are y'all really excited?
Are y'all excited? I'm ready to dig into some dirt.
You nervous?
should be, honey. 'Cause
What are the
I'm
nerves
nervous.
about? What are the nerves about?
I'm nervous, because I've never, you tell bits and pieces of your story, but I've never sat down. I had to really think about what is everything that you've been through.
So what is everything that you've been through?
Wow.
Wait, okay, I gotta do this because Nikisha Jones is so excited. We can start with her. She says, "Yes, what?"
Right, I'm really interested. Yeah, let's talk. The world wants to know.
Just out of order. So for real.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll start with
I'm nervous because of the fact that I've never had to sit down and really think about everything that I have been through. I kind of summed it up, and I've always summed it up that there's not too much a woman can go through in today's life that I have not, in some point in my life, have been through and can identify with. And at the time when you're going through it, you just going through and you take the blows and the hits and the, you just make it. And then it wasn't until that God called me to the ministry that I understood that what I went through was actually for a purpose and a plan.
Right.
And it is not until you stop and you say, whoa, there really isn't anything a woman can really go through that I in some way can minister to or identify with. And brokenness identifies with brokenness. My walk was a little different. I grew up, I was born in the church. First family. And so with that, I was inbred.
I'm sorry, that's those shredded PKs out there.
Into church royalty. That's the pastor's
That's the preacher's
Yes, I
daughter.
was a PK kid. And I'm the first grandchild. So, I was engulfed in ministry and being able to watch ministry. And not only my grandfather, was 13 of them, and most of them are preachers. And so it's just through my bloodline. And so
can't do nothing in that family.
right.
They did everything. Oh, well, then there's that.
And not only did I get it at church, I also my parents. I grew up in a 2-parent household, so my parents raised me to go to private school. And then I went to the best high schools. I had Bible study classes. Even summer camp was at churches.
Right.
So with that being said, I was just engulfed. But when it came to just social skills, when it was like church matters, I couldn't hang with everybody. When all the teenagers are chilling on the back road or, the church.
I don't know nothing about that.
I couldn't hang.
That was not my life. My mama did not play that.
Everybody going over each other's houses, on different days of the week. You didn't do that.
No, my daddy wasn't.
Because you couldn't, it was always, it was envisioned, you can't do what everybody does. You cannot do, and then when you have a calling on your life, then other people even recognize with a spiritual eye that you have a calling. And so it was always, they were equipping me and grooming me for something, not really necessarily knowing what they were grooming me for, but they were. And when I got about high school, I got tired of living in a fishbowl. Because you couldn't even sneeze without somebody questioning why you sneeze that way. Or I couldn't say anything without somebody, and taking it to left field, like that's not what I said. And so, that went through high school, but I still was grounded and rooted in the Word. I went off to college. I was still grounded and rooted in the Word, and God surrounded me with nothing but Christian people. I was engulfed. I mean, God just really blessed me at that time. I was engulfed in the Christian organizations on campus, and I had wonderful leaders like seniors in college that were just mentoring me. And they're now preachers and just all over this great nation, just doing mighty works for God. But I wanted to do other things.
Right.
Because that self was setting in there. Right. And I was getting so tired of this fishbowl, and I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do.
Right.
And I felt like I was living a life for other people. And so,
I don't know what you got to say.
Don't ask me no questions. Go ahead.
I have to ask. You keep saying things. What things could you be talking about?
Anything that I wanted to do.
Like what?
And I'm gonna go into
Okay.
So any fleshly thing that I wanted to do. So whether it was, I remember my first club experience. I wanted to go to a party on campus, and I went and I had on my church outfit because I ain't had no club clothes.
Wait a
Wasn't
minute,
that
you
good?
had on a suit going to
Let me
the
tell you, I
club.
had the polyester pants that that you wore to church. They weren't fitted, but they were the fitting that I had.
That was just close to
And the polyester black and white checker vest, because with that's what I was with my homegirl said. I was slinking with the back then the chain belt. And that's all I had. And I remember it was a fraternity party. I felt so convicted when I got home. I called my grandfather, which is my pastor at the time, and I was like, I told him that I had went to a party, and he told me it's not where you go, it's what you do when you get there. And so I was like, okay, but see, then you take it a step further and a step further. And the parties led to other things, and by the second semester, I was drinking. I had never drank before. I went to college a virgin. I didn't leave that way.
Yeah, we all messed up.
And you gotta understand, when you open your life to sin, it just fulfills. It's like a door. And then everything that when you start fulfilling your fleshly desires, you don't know what other demonic spirit comes in there. And you just open your life up. And that's what I did. I ended up opening my life up. All still praying.
Yeah.
All still going to my church events and my meetings and singing in the choir. And then this took precedence over that. So this became more and that became less. And then when I did have my quiet time with God and going to church, I spent more time crying and asking for forgiveness for the things that I had just did the night before.
Right.
That I couldn't even praise him right. Because I'm too busy crying and engulfing my life and saying, Lord, forgive me of the things that I had done. Because I had opened myself up to, I had called myself I was a soldier in every aspect of it. In drinking, I was I call myself a functioning alcoholic.
Yeah.
Because it was a game that I could wake up, have a glass of Crown, I can do it for lunch and whatever.
Drive well.
I had sober friends who did not drink and would let me drive, and I don't even remember how we got home. So the next day, I'm questioning, what possessed you to let me drive? And they're like, Crystal, we had a conversation in the car. I don't remember anything. And throughout my life, I saw the grace of God just covering me through when I couldn't protect myself, he was covering me. I got into promiscuity, and the thing was, I was looking for something out there that I didn't know I had already. But I had let it go. And when you let it go, you start trying to fill the void. So I was filling it with alcohol. I woke up to alcohol and I went to bed with alcohol. And I'm too smart to become an alcoholic.
Right.
So what I did was, I said, well, I'm going to stop drinking so much because I didn't want to become an alcoholic.
Right.
And I'm going to pick up cigarettes.
Right. You gotta
Because they
balance
give you a
that.
high. But then I can still drive with it. And so then I became a closet smoker because then I ended up becoming a parent through all of my promiscuity. And everything became behind closed doors. In my life, I began to be trapped behind open doors. I was walking and talking like Crystal, but I was somebody else on the inside. Everything I did in the closet, from drinking to smoking, my son never knew. And if he did, I taught him that smoking kills you. Cigarettes kill you. You teach your kids the right thing. And it's that whole thing. Do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
And I jumped from man to man to man to man. And why? So what? I protected myself.
Right. What is that? What's the big deal?
Right. And I knew it was wrong. You know it's wrong. But I couldn't get a fulfillment. And one man won't do because this one's good for this and this one's
Right,
good
you
for
gotta
that.
have a collection. We got
So
different
if I
fix the lamp, Mary gonna fix the car.
And it's the truth.
And if I get about 5 of them with with different attributes, I can make me up one good one.
And still won't be satisfied, so we don't keep them separate.
And I'm
Because
independent.
you gonna get on my nerves in 15 minutes.
I was independent. I didn't need them for anything. I didn't necessarily need them for anything, but you don't realize how much you're searching through life and you're looking for this and you're looking for that. It's not until you hit your lowest point and you understand this is not what God has called me to do. I got tired of going to God crying. And all the while, I knew there was a calling on my life. You didn't know exactly what it is. You don't know what your purpose is when you in there. You just know that you sick of life and you doing everything you supposed to. I was a single mama. I was going to work. I wasn't on welfare. I was too above that. I wasn't on welfare. I had my own place. I didn't live with my parents. I had me a man. He wanted to act right sometimes, he did in others. Oh well, I had a couple of them. And then I still went to church. I fulfilled my obligation to the Lord by going to church on Sundays. I listened to his ministry. I asked for forgiveness, but there was no real repentance, because repentance means to turn away from. But I would apologize because, Lord, it had a hold on me and I knew I was going to do it again, so I took the easy road and just said, Lord, take it away. And I was asking for God for something without giving him anything.
Oh, yeah. Just hand out.
Just, Lord, I can't do it. Take it away. I mean, there were times when, and I'm a go-getter. So there were times when I didn't have all the money and I thought about prostituting. Why not? Because I had built up a wall. You're independent. You build up this wall. You're immune to a lot of things. That don't bother me. And I didn't want to do it as a career. It was just to make some quick money. I remember one time my lights got cut off, and that's when I really, my lights had gotten cut off, and I had a son, and he needed to do homework. And we got home, didn't know, and the lights was off, and I make it like, okay, so, hey, let's go on the balcony. I don't know why the lights off. I lit some candles, we're on the balcony, he did his homework, and then we played a game out there, and then I put batteries into one of his radios, and we listened to music and laid on the couch and went to bed. And he went to bed, but I stayed up, and I called a couple of my friends that I knew from school, and I said, say, do you know any work I can do tonight? And it was to strip. I didn't want to really go out and I didn't want to prostitute my body. I wanted to go strip. Do you know some easy, quick money? It doesn't bother me. I was fine. I was fine.
I need this money.
I need this money. And at the end of the day, my lights need to come on.
Right.
And
I got
so
a child.
I was in survival mode, but I knew God. So I thought.
Right. Right. We got a relationship.
I got a relationship. I know who he is. I know who to call on. And I remember one time when I was in college, I was in one of my Bible study groups, and I can't remember her name. I think it was Dina. Either Dina stood up and said, Crystal, do not keep using God as a safety net. And I didn't understand what that meant at the time, because I hadn't been through everything that I was going to go through yet. And it wasn't until later that I realized I had been using God as a safety net. I had, you know how you get drunk and you just like, I remember sitting in my car drunk after going to a club, and my girlfriend, she's sitting over here throwing up, not in the car, but leaned outside the car throwing up. And I'm the functioning alcoholic. I'm the functioning alcoholic, and I'm like, okay, and this guy's trying to holler at me right here in the window, and and I blow him off. But I sat there and I was just like, Lord, I'm so sorry. You just feel guilty. But it never stopped you to do it again.
Right.
You feel guilty, and you like, Lord, I am so sorry. You know you're in your wrongness, but you just apologize because you're going to do it again.
Yeah.
And then it gets tired of apologizing, so the next time you can't even pray because you say, Lord, I can't keep asking you and telling you I'm sorry, so just take it away. And it wasn't until recently, I was 30-some years old, 2 kids now, single mom, and he had called me to the ministry years before, but I wasn't ready. And sometimes you can know your calling, but you hadn't got the anointing yet for your calling. And so I had went to my pastor and I said, Pastor, God has called me to preach. And he said, okay. And he said, I'm going to set you up for Wednesday night. And of course,
Taking me too fast. Wait a minute.
exactly. Of course, I didn't really go to a church that accepted women preachers yet. And so, you know, he's like, it's a lot of women here that, you know, kind of called or think they're called. So, you know, so he got a couple of women that just wanted to talk on a Wednesday and set a podium up. And I was not anointed for, God had just told me what the assignment was, but it wasn't time for me to walk into my calling yet. And so, of course, I went up there in self. And because I was so self, I vowed to never do that again. I walked away. Nobody, no harm, no foul. You know, it wasn't announced it wasn't publicly announced that I was supposed to preach. It was just a talk. Okay, and I went on about my life, literally, like nothing had happened. Back to promiscuity, back to drinking, back to doing whatever I wanted to do. I was raising my 2 kids, so why not? I had men in other cities, and I had to sit down and look at one time. I wanted to write down how many men I had slept with.
Oh,
Now,
no.
why would you sit down and do that?
Why? Right? Why would you do that to yourself?
I wanted to know, and I forgot if I had watched something on television, and then I had listened to a sermon. But I wanted to know if I could actually recall all their names, because those are spirits being deposited. I knew enough of the word. How do you know enough of the word and go that far against it?
It's easy.
Yes.
Because flesh gets in. And so I had I wrote down all the names, and when I left my hands, that was another thing I had said. I didn't want to leave my fingers, but when I left my fingers, it was a reality check, and I began to pray, and I said, Lord, and I would sing songs constantly. Please don't pass me by. I would drink and ask God to don't pass me by. I was in another spiritual world. Lord, please don't pass me by. And it wasn't until I felt like God just said, you know, I am so sick of you. And have you ever, you told your kids, I use this analogy, when you walk past your child's room, you say, hey, clean that room up. And then you come back through, and they still sitting there playing game or watching television, you say, didn't I say clean that room up? And then you come back through again. And it's not until you tired and you frustrated that you walk up in that room yourself, you snatch that TV, you snatch that game, and then you, okay, now what you gonna do? And it was like God walked through my life, literally, stepped into my life and snatched. He said, okay, since you want me to get your attention, you asked me.
You asked me.
My God.
I was trying to quit smoking, and I had never really committed to quit smoking. Never really committed to it at all. I had never really tried. I had been smoking since 2004, and it was 2012 or 13. And I finally said, I did a fast, January 2013, I did a fast. And I said, Lord, I want you to take control of my life. And it was the first real fast I had done in my life. 30-some years old. And I had done fast, but I did a 30-day fast this time. And I ate nothing that was out of the order, everything from the ground. And I said, Lord, I want you to take control of my finances, of my life, my smoking, everything. And I said, this is for you. And I held to it. And I did that fast. And after that, God just walked me through so many things. He introduced me. I was on like a television show for finances, and then later that year, I went to the Potter's House conference. The Mega Fest was here, and it was 3 days of just devoting yourself to God. And I mean, I took off work, and 3 days I praised and worshiped Him. Nothing else mattered. I got up that morning, I went and I was searching for God. I was searching. It was my year to search for God. And I said, Lord, I want to prove to you that I want this. And even though I was still in my mess, I was still drinking, but I was trying to get out. But I knew that there was nothing I can do by myself to get out of this. I could not do it, and this is a different thing. When I went to the Mega Fest, I didn't tell God anything different than I hadn't told Him before. but I gave him a different yes. See, I had told him yes before, but he required another yes from me. And he required that yes that you can put aside things that necessarily aren't wrong, just wrong for you.
Right, right.
You can, it's some things that we do, it's not that they're wrong to do, they're just not righteous for you. They're not according to my will for your life. It's nothing wrong for you to drink, but it is something wrong for you to get drunk. And it may be even John the Baptist couldn't take a fermented drink. It was not wrong to drink, it was wrong for him.
Right.
Because what God had a calling on his life. And God started stripping things. I didn't want to admit it, but he took drinking from me. And me and God had arguments.
Oh yeah.
We had battles.
We gonna discuss it.
Because he walked, I said I never date a preacher. Never in my life did I want to ever date a preacher. I had walked away from the fishbowl. Why I want to walk back in it? And God introduced me to a man. We had been friends all my life, and that was somebody I never said I'd date again. And not because he was a bad person. We were too different. My husband had never drank, didn't party. What we got in common? You know, and I wanted a Christian with a balance.
Right, right. Don't just throw me in.
Let's be honest. I wanted a Christian with a balance. I mean, can we be believers and still, you know, maybe not go and drop it like it's hot, but can we still go to certain environments and chill?
Let it down
you
like
know,
it's warm.
Yeah, can we just put it in the microwave?
But God said, even though that's okay, that may be okay for certain people. That's not
right, right.
So then I got this square man who I thought was square, and I was like, Lord, I don't know what we gonna do because what we gonna do. And then I said, Lord, well, I don't want to get tired of him because I'm used to being out
Absolutely.
and going, and I'm giving myself to you, but you know I could be a believer and still have fun.
Right, right.
And that is true. It is true.
Fun.
You can be a believer and still have fun, but you gotta align His will with your will.
Say that again.
Right there.
You can still be a believer and have fun. Christians have fun too.
Yeah, we are the biggest
great thing
nuts
about
on earth.
The great thing about God is that He will start, if you allow Him to, He will align your desires with His desires. When you give your will over to Him, He aligns. You don't want to do certain things. And it wasn't until I opened my heart and my life up to Him that honestly now He equally yoked. We were already, equally yoked, but He aligned us together. He is, as I grew closer towards Him and my husband we grew closer together. Not even knowing. I gave our relationship to Him. I took my hands off. It was a struggle because my hands were on it. I didn't want to date a preacher. I didn't want to be in a preacher's family. I didn't want to be called to be a preacher. But at MegaFest, I gave God a different yes. I said, Lord, I don't know what purpose you have for me. Because at the time, I still wasn't certain if I was supposed to preach.
Right.
I said, I don't know what purpose you have for me. I don't know. And I said, but Lord, whatever it is, I'm going to birth whatever it is that you have in me. And so at that time, I was on the praise and worship ministry. So I said, I'm not a great singer, but I was going to sing every Sunday until whatever was in me came out. And I didn't care who got tired of hearing me sing.
Okay.
I was going to sing every Sunday until whatever was in me came out. And I said, Lord, when you ready to move me to the next level, I'll do it. You don't want me to smoke anymore, I won't smoke. And it was a struggle. I tried not to, and that was a struggle. And God said, it was one day He said, I went to a service, a church service, an 8 o'clock service. And the preacher said, Jesus laid down His life for us, but we won't lay down certain things for Him. And it was almost like God Himself it's like He spoke directly to me. I laid down my life for you, but you can't lay down a cigarette for me. And He took it away.
Just crush.
I didn't do it. I had never put down a cigarette from 2004 to 2000. This was 2014 by this time, and end of 2013. He completely took it away. It was like, I want to say August of 2013. Never had a cigarette since. Cold turkey. I didn't have no patch. I ain't have no wing off the period.
You just had
Because
gone.
when the time I did try, I was like a crackhead outside tracing the cracks in the sidewalk
Right.
because I was feeding so much. I was feeding for that nicotine. Now I'm on the phone. I'm like, I'm not gonna smoke a cigarette, and I'm tracing cracks in the driveway. You know? and I'm like, yeah, I'm not. I gotta make myself busy because it was such a habitual habit.
There one right there.
I got to the point I was searching for buds that I had let out just to light it to get that little hit off the end of.
With one good puff in there.
Because I said I wasn't gonna buy another pack. And
That blood right there.
but that
right
blood,
on
and
it.
you're like, let me just have just a little bit. You know, that's where it was for me. And that was that one time I tried to quit, and I never really did it again. But I knew I needed to quit from my health and for my kids. And it's time to walk what we talk about and walk what we preach. And anything that you gotta hide from the world and you gotta hide from God, and I'm sitting here like this, Lord, just forgive me. I know this your temple, but please feel freedom. You know, how do you do that? How do you say, Lord, I know this your temple, but please, Lord, just push it out, wipe it out.
Right.
Push it out, Jesus.
Miss this point. Glaze over
That's so
this.
not good.
Like you got the power.
Right. Why I gotta go through this? Just take it.
Blow that fan.
Right.
Window in my heart, let it out. You know.
I think about that, and I love my brother MJC, but he said something one Sunday. I don't know where he got it from, but I'm gonna repeat it because it so fits. He said, we want the product, but we don't want to go through with the process. We want the product. And I'm trying to tell you that I wanted to take my fist and put it in his face because that was exactly what I was going through in that moment.
No, we stink too bad to get it right now. We gotta get clean.
Okay.
And he has to clean us up first.
Yes. So.
And that was there
Yes.
too. I didn't want to move. I was still in the back of the church. And I went to church at 12 o'clock when all that praise and worship sing because I had it on my way to church.
Right. I did this.
And also half the time I was still hungover from the night before. And so you got to drink a couple
So
of
them
waters.
drums is gonna get on my nerves.
But I was going to church. I was fulfilling my obligation. Got there around 12, and I did. And I got there for the word, and then I would go home. And God wanted more. I didn't want to be in the front, but God said, I want all of you.
Not this piece.
Not this piece. So it required a different yes. It required the yes that, not the regular yes that I was given, but that yes, no matter how right it is, I can still give it up for you.
And right on that note,
Right.
teaser, we're going to break. Right on that note, we will be back in a minute.
Your fence and decking needs. Choose a professional with over 40 years experience and a AAA rating with the Better Business Bureau. Super Fence Company is committed to going the extra mile to ensure customer satisfaction. Call 214-454-4847 today and schedule your free estimate. Our motto is, your privacy is our priority.
Hey, we're back. We're back.
Invading questions and
Yeah,
stuff.
right. I'm over here like, oh, you just wait. But they told me I had to wait. So I'm going to wait on y'all tomorrow. Not tomorrow. I won't have the opportunity tomorrow.
Right.
I won't have the opportunity tomorrow.
So,
Opportunity.
we dive into your life. What has life been like for you, co-pastor?
Wait a minute. Say it again, Queen B.
Co-pastor.
Girl, you sound good. You sound
Let's do that.
See all that singing every Sunday
Yeah.
Because I tell people every day, put me off the praise team. I don't know why. I'm not pretty good. But I'm
We like it.
congregational hymn. That's what I am. So, what you been through?
Oh.
Tell us about Damascus. Tell us about Damascus.
We're talking about Damascus, Mike.
Right.
Crystal said. Anyway, listen. Okay, so let me see how far back we should go. It's funny that we have similar stories that I grew up in the church all my life. My dad was head deacon. I told him, you absolutely missed your calling to preach.
Okay.
And so I would know what to do. I kind of grew up on both sides though. My mom and my dad split up when I was in the 7th grade. A little bit here, but just a little background is they had probably been over since I was in the 3rd grade. So imagine your household growing up in a house with 2 parents that were doing this. And so I had kind of seen both sides of the fence. I'd seen a lot. My dad had me in church Sunday through Sunday. He drove the church bus, so we just had to be there. So I was one of the people that said that when I got grown, Jesus, maybe once every 3 months gonna work for me. Because that's how
I'm getting out of here.
There's got to be more than this.
I really thought Steve Harvey, you know what? I was just around the corner. We gotta go every Sunday. I was just
I've never said that. I have never, hell has never been a desire for me. I've done some things. I wasn't gonna burn
As soon as you said that, I thought Steve Harvey, we gotta go every Sunday. Mama, I was just around.
But then, of course, as I got older, I kind of gained who I was, and I hate to kind of go spiritual too quick. However, it would be my story. Whenever you've grown up in 2 different homes, and there was a side that loved God with all their heart, and then there was another side that did love God, but because of household reasons, they were kind of apart. And so you learn how to become multiple people.
Absolutely.
And you learn very early in life how to manipulate. And so very early on in life, I learned how to manipulate the system. So when I got old enough that I could, find a reason not to go to church or whatever, I'd just be like that, maybe not today. I could remember it started going bad. Bad, that sounds like I'm gonna say I'm just horrible, right? And I was.
She could have said
And I was. Don't worry. I can remember it started going bad probably as early as 14. I would, I don't know that I ever told this. My daddy doesn't watch YouTube. All right, there we go.
And sweet. Exclusive.
But tell your story. So I would. I remember at the age of 14 that I began, because I had been in church all my life and knew some things that I wanted to see what else was out there. And I've always been a go-getter. And so when I decided that I wanted to see what was out there, I needed to see what was out there with somebody that had some money. Now, don't get me wrong, although I did dive into promiscuity, it was much later in life. But when I began to date, because of the neighborhood I grew up in, you were surrounded by dope dealers. And so what did I decide to date when I decided to date? I decided to date dope dealers. Now, of course, I live 2 different lives. So you'll later on find that I married my high school sweetheart, but he was a good boy. He was a boy that I would go to church with on Sundays. Really didn't care to hang out with him during the week.
Appearances only, baby.
Yeah, appearances.
We look good on Sunday.
Right. So good. Like, you're the person that my mama talk to your mama, my daddy talk to your daddy, and I can get out the house. But you're not good for much more than that.
Leave me alone. Don't call me.
And so
I'll call you. Don't you?
I remember at around that age and leading on up to being into a world to where I was dating dope dealers. I would go to the room with them and begin to cut it up, and it was a lot of stuff that and I can so because I grew up all my life, when I got ready to go to God and ask for forgiveness, I didn't even do it for me. I would go to God and say, God, if my daddy find out, it'll kill him. I would do stuff and I would come back and say, now God, you gotta cover me because of my daddy. God, if they call, we would go to the drag strips, and y'all, I did so much before it was legal for me, that by the time it got legal, I didn't even care about it anymore. And so, but when I would do it, I would always go back to God and say, God, I listened when we would run up the highway and make trips or whatever, and I would say to God, God, you gotta cover me because of what if my daddy find out. Isn't it strange that your soul can be on the line and you can be on the way to hell and you don't even have enough sense to tell God, God, do it for me? Right. But for the person that's close to me, God, don't embarrass them. I always said growing up, God, I don't ever want to embarrass you or my daddy. I'm married now, so that number has increased. Right. But it was, God, don't ever let me embarrass my daddy. Don't ever let me embarrass you. And so from there, it just grew. The clubs, the parties, I know what it looks like, and it's so funny. I was just thinking this earlier. I know what it looks like. I was saying people that club now really don't club. They really don't know what clubbing means. Because clubbing, they don't have
Standing around looking at each other out here is not clubbing.
That's not clubbing.
That is not clubbing.
We ripping
We
wet. We did it.
You done worked out for 4 hours. I mean, you got to redo hair and
Right.
wipe the smoke
You
out
don't
there.
leave
You don't nobody know you.
Yeah, you don't leave your friends hanging.
No, you
No.
don't.
You don't ever do that.
Never. Clubbing for us was really different. You know, I was the person that even on a Saturday night, baby, we clubbed.
Right.
The club did not close till 4.
No.
You had to go grab something to eat.
You club
You club, yeah, because you started at home. How about when you knew you were going to happy hour and you dressed business casual, but if you took your blazer off, it was on
It was
the
easy transition, boo.
After part. Out the spot.
And so on Saturday nights, you had I would go to the club. I hung out at clubs. If you closed down at 12 or 1, you really wasn't my cup of tea because it was just getting started. So you didn't close to 4. You had to go get something to eat. On a Saturday night, you didn't do the after hour because by the time you got through eating, it was about 6:30 or 7. All you had time to do was take a shower and go stand in the choir stand full of vodka.
Full of it.
Full. Don't belch.
Full.
Everybody know.
But because I grew up in the church, I had the foundation. So I knew it didn't matter. I gotta get up and go.
Wow.
But what I was giving God was absolutely nothing because I would get up there with the choir, I would sing, I would go down. Sometimes you gotta walk out. So I was giving God absolutely nothing. And if you name it, I've done it. I've been through it. I can tell you about selling dope. I can tell you about stealing cars. And listen, y'all, and you find yourself in stuff because listen, I am today. The apple of my daddy's eye. I never had to do none of that stuff. Like ever. I was a spoiled brat, but I had my own identity and just had to get out and do some things. I'll never forget, and it's so funny, my dad didn't even know that I drank until I was really, really, really grown. Because I kept it away. And so I'll never forget probably being about maybe 10 years ago. My brother said to my daddy, that girl got liquor all in her freezer.
You talk too much.
God,
Why you snitching?
Somebody tell you to tell her.
it was like telling
I
God.
said go get the chicken. Ain't nobody said nothing.
You doing too much. It don't even freeze.
Right. It stay ready.
It's just chilled.
Right.
It
That's
stay
it.
and so
Got our glasses in there next to the red.
there became a defining moment for me that I began to say, God, I want it, but then I wanted other stuff.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
This
God, I really want you, and God, I really know that there is more to you, but I'm a Sunday Christian.
Not Wednesday, Tuesday.
Not right.
Y'all don't be calling no fellowship on Friday.
It's $2 margarita.
Right, and I'm a Sunday morning Christian. Don't ask me to go to the evening service if the choir got to sing. I'm gonna throw you the deuces because I got other stuff to do.
Right.
Even if I don't,
so,
I ain't going.
Right. I'm not doing that. But I found myself in such a place because I would agree that we do stuff looking for something. And I'm gonna touch on this and keep going because we could be here forever. And part of the reason was because I had been molested as a child. I tell people all the time, molestation does one or two things to a person. Either molestation pushes you away from sex and you don't want it, or it says, I'm trying to get it. Because sex then becomes a game. It becomes, I want to see how I can make you feel. I want to see if I can make you, it's a sad truth and a lot of people won't talk about it. Needless to say, it did not push me away from sex. And so because of that, it became a game for me. And I'll never forget, and because I grew up in the church, and I knew once I got grown, this is what I would say to men. Those that I wanted to be with, I would be with. And I played the game so dangerously that if I didn't want to be with you, I just told you I played on my salvation. and told you, I can't do this with you.
Oh yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
This is not what I can do, but I need.
Academy Award winning actress.
And watch this. And if you love me like you say you
Like
do,
you say you do.
can you imagine?
Girl, I lied so much to me.
It's so scary. It's such a scary place.
Right.
That if God was to decide to come back and say, do you remember?
No, don't do that.
You do know that, you
It will
know,
be.
my brother have done this, that God is going to do you like this.
Play this video right.
Right.
Like,
This. You want to talk about this or you want to talk about this?
Excuse me.
I want to talk about
Page
this.
133,
you might want to go
Paragraph.
to 133,000.
4.
When that book go like this.
Right. Right.
That's the one. I'm looking for.
Can we Lord, we're going to be here all day. It's plenty people trying to get in here.
House on the plate. Wait a minute. I don't even remember that.
You said to
passed
say your
it out before,
forgiveness.
right. I mean, what are we
You
talking
said
about?
from the east to the west. You said from the east to the west now.
Don't you remember when I gave you the real yes that I asked and you
Right,
told
the
me something?
real one.
But before
and
that
so-
real yes.
No.
Right.
All that matter. You said all that matter.
And so I found myself at a place to where I'll never forget when God began to deal with me, even ministry wise. And y'all, this is when I became completely serious. And I tell people this, even when they come into the church and they're trying to find something that will make them stop. My first question is always, what is it in your life that will cause you to want to do better? Because y'all, I lived foolishly.
Foolishly.
Foolishly. If I wanted to do it, that's what I done. I even said, I remember saying at one point, I never wanted kids. I was fine, just me, myself, and I. And I had a really good job. I didn't need for anything. I didn't want for anything. But then there was those on the side who was there because I took their money.
Yeah.
So I had a really nice stash
Thank
stashed
you.
away
Right.
because I worked every day. You not, and then you was around to get your check, and my salvation won't let me mess up with you.
You can't have this.
No.
You know, but you said you wanted to be with me, and my rent is, you know, it was foolish. And then I remember having children, and when I had my first child, who's 8 now, I said, God, you know what? There just has to be something else. I got to do better if for them. Because what you find is, and this is what I found, this is why I said even growing up in preachers' houses, there's still so much stuff going on. What I had to say to myself is, if you don't stop it, she'll start. Because it's trickled down. And I don't care how good I thought I was at it, I didn't come up with it. It started in my bloodline back somewhere. And so if I don't stop it, then she'll be fighting with it the next 20, 30 years. And so I began to try to do better. Y'all, I was a functional alcoholic. I mean, like to the point to where I kept it in my, I kept the bottle in my freezer. Not only did I keep it in my freezer, but I worked for a hotel, I won't say which one, but I worked for a very prominent hotel, and I used to buy, somebody say they was bootleg, and Lord have mercy. The shot bottles was in my car. And while everybody else was coming back from lunch with strawberry soda, that wasn't what was in my KFC cup.
Right.
I did that.
Yeah. It ain't none of your business.
I mean, I was and the reason that, right, the reason that vodka was my choice was because, I mean, anybody in this drink know you can't smell it. So it was, let's go. And so I was, but I remember.
All I'm thinking about is when I'm done and going, oh, I'm so not by myself.
No, you are not alone, okay?
No, sweet, you are not alone.
Problem is, enough people won't tell it, but you're not alone.
And that's the problem. This is why
And so I remember my oldest child. I have a 6-year-old and 8-year-old. I remember my youngest child being in her first trimester. First time I got married. I got married because I grew up in a house. I married their father. I grew up in a house with a mother and a father that was so far away from each other that I did not want that for my child. And so literally, 3 weeks before I had her, I woke my then boyfriend up at the time because we were staying together. I woke him up on a Friday morning. He had been asking forever, and I've been saying no, because remember, I'm used to being by myself. I woke him up early one Friday morning and said, let's go get married. He was like, what? But the fear of growing up, my baby growing up in a house the way I did, terrified me. And so I remember us getting up, getting dressed. We went down to the courthouse that day. We had to sit there forever because our pastor married us that Sunday, which means somebody had to sign off on the thing. Literally in one day, out of my emotions, I planned a whole wedding. When we got there, we went to the church Saturday, set it up. I mean, it was literally, the people walked in for a Sunday service and walked into a cathedral set up for a wedding. All out of my emotions, because I thought, I don't want my child to grow up like I did. Well, of course, that was the biggest mistake ever. But before we could split, we had another baby. And it just didn't work. And so I moved on. Well, I remember my oldest baby being in my first trimester, and I was still drinking. The last time I got toe up drunk, I was 5 weeks pregnant and had no clue. And I can't even tell you how I got to my bedroom that night. I was at home, but I don't know how I got to my bedroom. That was on a Friday. Sunday, something happened, and something said, go take a pregnancy test. Don't know why I would have went and took one. But from there on up through, I didn't drink, of course, while I was pregnant. But after I got pregnant, the urges came back. I never threw away any of my liquor, still had it in there because I was just pregnant.
It's gonna be good.
I'll be back. And so, but I remember having her and looking at her saying, there has to be something better. And so from that point, I started telling God, okay, God, I'll try. Okay, God, yes, I had always known that I was called to the ministry, but I bought several shoes to run in.
Oh yeah,
several. If I allow God to take a pair Sunday by 7 o'clock, I had bought another pair. Because I just did not want it. I grew up in church all my life. My dad, like I said, was head deacon, so I was in the back with all the pastors and all the stuff that went on, and I never wanted to be a part of that circle. And so I began to give God a yes, began to work through some things, and then I remember one day waking up and realizing drinking wasn't really never my issue.
Really?
Then I started drinking because of other things.
So what was the issue?
Well, whenever you find yourself in a place to where you dealt with so many things from a young child on up, and they've never ever been resolved, then you do something. It was padding. That's why I was a functional alcoholic, because the more I drank, I didn't have to think about the other things. I grew up in a broken home. I didn't have to think about that. I had longed for the love of two parents, and I didn't have to think about that. And then I was molested and never went to counseling. I didn't have to think about those things because I laid in on the bottle. And so I'll never forget saying, okay, God, here I am. I want it. I really never, and this is my story, I'll stick to it. I never really never told God yes to preach. I was hoodwinked. No, I really wasn't.
So it's sweet.
Right.
Look, there was no hoodwinking.
Anyway, we're over here with Co-Pastor Jones.
Well, look, I love that. Let me tell you why.
Let me tell you why. Because although I knew there was a calling on my life, I was so absolutely terrified. And when I say that, I remember being at prayer, the church I was going to. I remember being at prayer, and at the end of prayer, we would go down on a Saturday morning. We would go down because at that point I had became dedicated. 10 o'clock Saturday morning prayer. Let's go pray. Because I was trying to get all that God had for me. Still didn't want to preach, but I wanted all that God had for me. And so we would go down for prayer, and I remember being called to the middle of the prayer line and being told to lift my hands. Well, I'm used to prophecy and being prayed for, and I was going through some other things then. I had just had a baby. If you finna pray for me, let's do it. But that wasn't quite how the prayer went. The prayer said, she said, yes, God. And I was like, what?
No, she didn't.
I didn't say yes. She said yes.
But God had to do it that way because he said, if I don't do it, you'll never do it. And when God did it, listen, immediately, that was a Saturday morning. The next Wednesday, I was a preacher at Wednesday night Bible study. like he moved me really fast. Why? Because I don't reverted back to what I knew, what was comfortable. But here's what I found. Even after giving God a real yes, I realized that there are so many other things that you have to work yourself through. Because maybe you don't drink anymore. You know what I mean? But you know, even when I stopped drinking, I realized that drinking was never really my problem. No way. It was nothing to give up drinking because that wasn't the issue. And so I remember one day God beginning to pull things back up, old stuff.
Yes.
And I was saying,
because it can't live down there no more.
God, I thought I was over this. Like, I thought we had dealt with it. And God spoke to me so clearly. And he said, no, Nikisha, we never dealt with it. I put it down in the bottom of your feet because had it been a problem, then you'd have lost your mind. But now you're strong enough that we can go back and deal with it one by one and you can really be free. And so from there, I was like, okay, well, let's work. Let's go through it. But y'all, it was one of the most painful things I've ever went through in my life. I now all the way understand that through your pain, you push out purpose. Because you never really want to see you and the things that you've been through. And if I can be honest, listen, there is not anything that a woman in my church, a man in my church, if I go to somebody's church, that I can't look at you and say, but you can make it. Because I've seen so much. You know what I mean? I know what it was like to go down to the drag strip every Saturday, and every Saturday you knew they was going to be shooting and you was going to be praying, saying, God, just let me, if you don't let me get shot this time, I won't go back. And then here Friday night,
you knew you was going when you said it, but I didn't even get out of this.
and you were still there. But I learned that you put yourself in those type of situations because you've had such a bumpy road anyway that you don't really know. Here's what I learned in a lot of what I had been through. Because there had been such instability that it just seemed right. And so it wasn't until I started having children that I realized, you know what, I don't want this for my kids. I have to try to do better for my kids. Like, I have to try harder to fight off the urges for them. You know, going to the parties, hosting the parties. Growing up, I tell you, and I'm about to be done, but growing up, because I lived on two separate worlds, I had my daddy's house, which was a safe house. Hallelujah, thank you, Jesus. We're not going to do nothing. Yes, Lord, hallelujah. We got church. We got church all week and all week.
Thank you, Lord.
But because there was another side at my mom's house, I could go to my mom's house and host parties. Or hang out. Or I could go to my mom's house and I would hang out with my friends. The very first time I got drunk, it wasn't just with a crowd of my friends. My friend's mom allowed us to. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of part of my story where I am.
And my producer just forcing us to go to another way because I'm just gonna run through mine and get through the rest of this show, but they just gonna make me wait it out. So we'll see you in a minute again.
My Redeemer has saved me from sin. My soul is awakened. I live free from what held me, free from what fought me mentally. You've captured me in my mind. I am free in my heart. If I am yours, I am free.